We invested a lot of money. And so I will say that wasn't the best strategy. We saw hundreds of people come through that space in one day. It was our biggest sales day for the next 2 years, actually. It was really amazing. And maybe their product would fit in this market. Maybe it was a good fit. So we really took a chance on them, and then they took a chance on us. So you got to really trust that you can move that product. I would really connect you to how it could make you feel, the possibility. So you're used to alcohol making you feel a certain way. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. So what do you do now with this? Sell what you know how to sell. Be good at selling what you carry, because we lost product because
Hey everyone, it's Victor from Ecomm Experts, and welcome to the new episode. I'm super excited because we are having a person that I'm looking forward to discuss many different topics with, and that's Fiona Hepher from Sansorium. And I think that I got your name right this time. And I'm also excited because we were delaying this episode for like forever. And thank you for joining our podcast. Thank you for being open to sharing your story, and most importantly, your lessons from running Sansorium and all of the things that you did in order to grow it into a sustainable e-com and retail business.
Thanks, Victor. It's great to be on. It is great to finally reschedule twice now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to you too and sharing.
Okay, so Sansorium, you get it started. It's an alcohol-free marketplace with really good selection of, for me, wines that are without alcohol. Very interesting niche. That's one of those trendy niches right now, with alcohol-free products, with just living healthy with traditional products that are, let's say, having typically bad effects on you in one way or another. And you're tapping into this niche. When did you get this idea of starting this business, and why? What were the steps there?
Yeah, so it's a personal story, as many people can relate to, starting their own businesses. A number of years ago, I experienced my relationship to alcohol always changing. I would call myself some of the sober curious, one of those people. I didn't really know that term many years ago, but that's what I understand it was today. I took breaks from alcohol all the time. I chose not to drink out of just personal preference. I didn't like the way it made me feel. I didn't like how I would feel the next day. I didn't like the side effects, by and large, were not consistent with me. And my mom in 2020 decided she also wanted to stop drinking alcohol. So the two of us kind of went in on it together. And in Canada, we started to look around, and we're based in Vancouver in the West Coast. We were looking around for really good alcohol-free wines because we really didn't want to give up on our ritual of drinking wine together. But what we found was a very, very small selection. So we pretty much had one, maybe two wines in Vancouver that we would like to drink on a consistent basis. But after a year of drinking the same thing, it got a little boring, as you can imagine. And so we cast our eyes around the world to see if there was anything else out there. And what we discovered was really blossoming industries in Australia and England and Europe, and even in the US was coming up. They had hundreds of different brands that you could, and producers based there that you could buy from, and they had really good quality product. And I say it was good quality only by way of seeing customer reviews and testimonials, people getting consistently purchasing. And we looked for those products in Canada, and they were nowhere to be found. Yep. So we brought them in ourselves, sort of as a consumer. And we tried ordering off of some websites here in Canada. There was one or two that we could find some product on, and the service was terrible. I mean, broken bottles, delays, not great user interface online. And I come from an e-com branding hospitality background. So my standards are pretty high when it comes to the service level that I want to receive and the quality of the product that I want to receive. And once we realized that there was a true gap in the market, and it felt like we were all moving in the direction of looking for more alcohol-free, not just the two of us, but as a culture, as a community, we realized gap needed to be filled. So we decided to take on the challenge ourselves, learn how to import in Canada, self-taught, and we figured it out. And we launched essentially two companies, an import and distribution company and an e-com business for consumers at the same time. So Sansorium was born the fall of 2021 after we built the platform, and we hosted the first pop-up shop, full-scale pop-up shop in Western Canada, dedicated to almost 200 different alcohol-free products.
Okay.
We saw hundreds of people come through that space in one day. It was our biggest sales day for the next 2 years, actually. It was really amazing. And from there, our company has just grown and grown online, but also in the ways that we've been able to build community offline, we've also grown in other ways too, which is what I think is our secret sauce at the end of the day.
This is really interesting because looking into 2021, it's like the years of COVID. It's everyone staying at home. We have lockdowns, then we're finally free. Then we have lockdowns again, then we're again free, and so on and so forth. All around the world, everything's happening. And the wine and in general, the alcoholic industry was like hitting some records there because like people are at home, people are depressed, people like don't want to live that type of life. They need something to, just to relax and feel calm about everything that's going on. And you tap into this niche that turns out that, okay, in Canada, it's not big so far. So you do all of this. So you start importing wines from Europe and Australia. Is that correct? And
France, Spain, and Australia.
France, Spain, and Australia. And then you launch the Ecomm store. So for a product like yours, what do you do? What was how did you test the market and how did you go about it? Did you just import like a bunch of wines and you started off big, or you started very small and tiny and you grew it a little bit? What was the strategy there?
Yeah, so in the early days, we were a nobody. And we're still a small fish, but we were really nothing back when we first started. So we reached out to brands who we could see weren't in Canada, didn't have a presence yet in Canada, and maybe their product would fit in this market. Maybe it was a good fit. So we really took a chance on them, and then they took a chance on us. And we said, would you let us represent you in Canada? For whatever reason, they said yes. And we opened up partnerships with a few brands. Now, we were buying, for economics' sake, it would only made sense for us to buy a pallet at a time of product, nothing less than that. And we were probably, if we were upwards of 100 to 150 SKUs, we'd have to buy, it was pallets on pallets of product that we were bringing in. We invested a lot of money. And so I will say that wasn't the best strategy at the beginning to test that much product that early at the same time. Maybe getting your experience with a few SKUs at first and then building on that at 6 months later would have made sense. But in order to be a true marketplace, you needed to have variety. You needed to have beer and cider. You needed to have wine and spirits and aperitifs and ready to drink. So you had different format sizes. So we kind of had to take a chance on a bunch of different product, and we learned the hard way in a few ways. Certainly time of year when you ship non-alcoholic product. If you ship in the winter, you are highly susceptible to freezing because there's no alcohol in the product. So if you're coming from overseas, that can be really sketchy. And we lost thousands and thousands of dollars on freezing. You are also at risk of expiry dates. There are expiry dates much sooner than alcohol has. So you will see 1 year best before dates on beer, which is not a lot if it's coming from the UK. You've only really got 6 months by the time it lands. So you got to really trust that you can move that product. There were a number of examples like that where we learned the hard way, but ultimately the benefit was people saw that options and choices and large amounts of variety was possible, that you didn't just have to drink, let's call it O'Doul's, the original kind of non-alcoholic beer. You didn't just have one option anymore. You had choices. You could have this or this, and you could test it out. And that really gave us a starting point for people's explorations. And then it also showed us quickly what our specialty was. So I did drink beer in the past. I've sipped Coronas on the sides of Mexican beaches, but it's not my forte. It's certainly not the thing
You're a
I'm
wine
the
person.
best at. I'm a wine person.
Yeah.
And I'm a cocktail person.
Okay.
So we went down, and this is really good for anyone building a marketplace or anyone wanting to build sort of multi-vertical marketplaces within a category. Sell what you know how to sell. Be good at selling what you carry, because we lost product because selling beer wasn't necessarily our expertise. So it wasn't natural for me to go for it, right? And people then weren't looking at us for those kinds of products. So now what you'll see on our platform is I have really good local representative brands to cover beer, and they're brands that are based here. So I can filter, a few cases onto the website as it sells, and people can get their favorites from Canada. But I'm not importing anymore because I know I can't move it. I am investing all my time and money into wine and spirits because that's what I'm really good at.
And honestly, when I look into the website, I'm like, this is a wine website. I don't even think that I'm going to find beer there. So like the whole design and the way it looks is like so classy and so nicely put it. I'm like, okay, this is like some really nice place to explore wine. And that's
that was
really
our
interesting.
intention.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. You start building a marketplace, and marketplaces are extremely expensive. And if I'm not wrong, when I've spoken to people that are in the wine industry with alcoholic wine, what they say is that it's a great industry because everybody's buying again and again if you're a wine person, yet the margins are super low. So when you have low margins and you have you basically have products that have short expiry dates. Now I hear that they can freeze, which is like probably terrible in Canada. Probably not happening in Europe that much, but in Canada. And you have all of those issues. So if you have someone else right now listening to the podcast that is thinking of opening a marketplace business, how should they be doing their numbers, and what are the traps when they're doing their numbers?
Okay, so certainly taking into account your environment first will make a big difference. So are you shipping, what weight of product are you shipping, and how are you shipping it? I think one of the biggest traps is transportation.
Okay.
If you have to bring in, I'm in it now, I can't get out of it, but I bring in glass bottles, 750 mils full of wine. It's a heavier product. It's heavier than a can of beer,
Yeah.
It's heavier than a cooler. It's heavier than a ready-to-drink cocktail. 6 to a case. These are big pallets, and it costs a lot to move it from Australia to Canada. So like I said, I'm in it now, but I didn't consider. Yes, we are a globalized world, but it still takes time for a boat to cross the ocean. It takes the same amount of time it did 50 years ago, I'm guessing. So that hasn't changed. It's very expensive, and you are at the sort of whim of the ports and what they're up to and how they're moving things. And we've had product sitting on boats for 11 weeks. Just who knows what state it's in at that point, right? So know your environment. Look at the averages of shipping between, if you are importing, shipping from your country of origin, where the product is from, and shipping in and around to your customers. Are you just going to be local in your own country? Do you want to expand to your whole region, continent? What's your business model? What do you actually need? When we first started, we thought we would just be Canadian and maybe we would just be in the US. Now it makes more sense for me to be all West Coast, US, Canada. I have a more temperate climate up and down this way than I necessarily do going all the way to Halifax and Quebec. So not necessarily making any moves with that. I'm not going to shut down half of Canada, but going, oh, that's a really interesting strategy potentially. Maybe another company might just work on a different region. So looking at your weather, looking at your transportation costs, looking at how much your typical package will ship to a customer really affects your bottom line. And depending on the size of the product, it will indicate the type of warehousing you go after. So if you're shipping a physical product, you'll need warehousing. If you go for a third-party logistics, a 3PL, how much space are you going to take up in that third-party warehouse? How much do they charge per bin? How much do they charge per pallet? Again, every time they touch your product, it's going to cost you $1 or something. So know how demanding is it for them to put a t-shirt into a box plus marketing material or a bottle wrapped in packaging and warming and bubbles. Protection, So really look at the whole journey all the way to the customer. So that would be the first thing. I think we didn't have line of sight into the pure logistics of moving a bottle of wine. But what I will say is it is the best margins out of an alcohol-free product.
Okay.
On average. Because, in my experience at least, because a person I know how much it costs me to get it to the bottom here. I know my landing cost, of course. And a customer will drink a bottle of wine every day, for sure. So I'm able to sell a bottle of wine at an average of $25, maybe up to $30. They could drink that every day. They could at least drink that every weekend. A beer, you're looking at more like a $3 to $5 price point.
Yeah.
Half of that in your landing cost. They would drink that every day, but it's more of like a penny game over a long period of time, whereas the margins in wine, you can just understand now the math is different. So you have to look at it from what am I losing and what am I gaining perspective. And because I could sell it well and I knew how to curate community and I knew how to curate marketing and events and PR around wine, it just was a natural fit for us to go down that path. I wouldn't change it today, but you're right. There are some challenges to that. If I run out of a certain SKU, I can't just airlift a bunch of wine over without it completely erasing any revenue, any profit for me completely. So it's not that easy.
And honestly, in Europe, wine is even more competitive, so the margins here are like very low because of that. So that's my experience with wine resellers here in like marketplaces. But getting into, it's 2021, you're in the fall, and you're coming from a background with branding and e-com in general. And what's your marketing strategy your go-to market strategy? What did you do in order to sell your first bottles of wine? What was your way of doing that?
So I come from experiential creation and marketing. I studied social entrepreneurship. I worked in community to help connect people to a concept. But my very first sort of foray into community was building empathy, a very abstract concept. I created with a team community projects to teach people empathy. So I got my first-hand experience from really learning how to connect people to a feeling and an emotion through maybe a product or an idea, right? So I took that. I then went on to work in health and wellness for natural products. Again, the whole idea was get this product on people and they will see how it makes them feel. Then I went into another part of the wellness industry, and it was just connect people to the product physically and they will see how it makes them feel. So it was no different for this. It was, this is a foreign concept. Ooh, a bottle of wine that has no alcohol. I have no idea what that would taste like. What would it make me feel? Will it be any good? There was a lot of criticism because of past wine that wasn't very good, alcohol-free wine that wasn't very good. So we knew two big things were liquid on lips and education. And we can do both of those things well. We know how to put on really good community experiences that would bring people offline and drinking the product. So almost 100% of the marketing budget was opening up bottles. I would buy them from you, from my vendor and my producer, and then I would just open them and get people tasting them. And I would put on these, we would put on these beautiful pop-ups. We hosted the very first alcohol-free wine tasting in Canada. So a typical wine tasting event that you would go to.
Yep.
Imagine one, it's completely alcohol-free. At that point, no one had done it before. So I would bring you through a flight of alcohol-free wine. I would tell you about the producer's story, how to drink it, what the nuances are about the wine. I would really connect you to how it could make you feel, the possibility. So you're used to alcohol making you feel a certain way. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. So what do you do now with this? Yeah. So actually giving people a reimagined perspective on this product, just constantly educating, connecting, and sort of bringing out a new way of looking at this industry, looking at this beverage as a completely new drinking vertical. This hasn't, you're not drinking a dupe of wine. It is wine without alcohol. It's a completely new drinking experience. How do I step into that, and how do I enjoy it in a new way? Because you will feel different. And I can't do that online. I cannot connect you to this level of emotion. And maybe you actually feel a little bit inspired if you watch a video or you listen to this podcast, and you can hear my expression around something, but it's so different from truly getting you in person and getting that liquid in your body and then talking to it. So I just knew, in 2022, we did over 100 pop-up events in 1 year.
Wow. Okay.
Between small, medium, and large scale pop-ups, whether I opened up one bottle or I opened up 50 bottles, we curated different levels of experience for people to connect with us. And that drew us to a marketplace of people where we had on average 30% return rate online.
Okay. Quite interesting. In our discovery call, when we first discussed the topic, one thing that definitely struck me was the fact that you didn't run a single ad on Facebook because you had issues with the stupid policies that are on there on the platform. I'm a Facebook advertiser. In the past 7 years, I've probably spent, probably tens of millions of dollars on Facebook ads. And for me, I am so biased that an e-com store without Facebook is like mission impossible. What did you do? What was the issue with Facebook in the first place, and how did you turn it to a mission possible in your case?
Yes, that's such a good topic. It really shows you what's possible outside of the norm, right? And I too believe that.
Did you first, did you had it in your marketing plan to have Facebook, or was from day one, no?
I totally had it in my marketing plan. I went from the company I worked on previously was in the sexual wellness industry.
Okay.
So this is 2019. This is when a lot of sexual wellness brands were really coming up to the surface. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of advertising flags coming up, and there was lots of debate around that, lots of legality coming up. And I was right in there, and we were struggling with we were trying all these workarounds with pixels and stuff, trying to get around it. It wasn't really working, but I thought, I'm going into an industry that's super safe. Like there's nothing about non-alcoholic product that could hurt anybody, you know? Surely it's going to be fine. Surely. Was I wrong? What they didn't realize, what they hadn't prepared for, was that non-alcoholic products were going to look so similar to alcoholic products. And they would have the same name, a Pinot Gris, a bourbon, an IPA. They all have the same names. So Facebook had not prepared the spiders to read actual language that described a non-alcoholic wine. So even if you put the words together, non-alcoholic wine, it wasn't smart enough to read that together and figure
to understand
out,
that it's like, yeah.
A Pinot Gris de-alkalized was just flagged as a Pinot Gris.
Yeah.
So we really struggled on our own. And this is at the point where we've spent all our money on launch, right? We've got a bit of runway now. This is all personally funded with a bit of a tiny business loan, right? A bit of money for runway to kind of get us through the first few months, but I'm not willing to risk it on ads when upon launch, the store, every product was declined, denied, and with even review was still denied. So I had my platform, Shopify, was working just fine, but if you actually went through Facebook, you saw nothing on that store. It was blank.
Yep.
And that happened with countless reviews, apparently done by humans for many, many months. Ads were always rejected, no matter how kind of playful I made the language. I'd really had to like take all product out and describe an idea about drinking non-alcoholic wine. That's what would get approved. But it wasn't worth it. It wasn't connecting the consumer to the actual product. So I let it go. And I thought, I'm going to do what I'm good at, which is connecting people in person. We grew a lot through email. We grew a lot through just organic, moving people through subscription to our email online from in person. And that seemed to work for us. This was in 2021, all of 22. And then at the end of 2022, I did meet an agency. Keep in mind, we're having discussions with other brands around the world that are also experiencing the same issues. And someone said, I'm going to try and raise this to someone higher up in Facebook and try and get some help, right? Because we were having to put, 21 plus on our website. We had to age gate our website at one point to be able to advertise.
For something that's non-alcoholic.
For something that's non-alcoholic. And the frustration, I wanted to do Instagram ads so bad, but the frustration was I'm seeing alcohol ads all the time, and just kind of big alcohol brands just getting a full pass to do all these things that they want to do. And I'm like trying to sell a non-alcoholic bottle of wine and I can't move it. So it really frustrated me. And I kind of stuck it to them. I was like, I don't feel like giving you my money anymore. I've tried so hard to give you my money and I don't want to do it anymore. But we did work with an agency at the end of 2022 into 23, as I think Facebook was starting to catch up with some of the new trends. They were able to push through some ads, but they made me no money at all.
Oh, wow.
The only place I made money was on Google. And
that is interesting. I would say that I can see this happening, honestly, even though I'm a Facebook guy. Not the biggest fan of Google ads, but I know when they work. And in your case, if someone is like looking for non-alcoholic products, they understand the niche very well. So they're well educated into, okay, I'm looking for something that's very specific. Just like you were looking for it in 2020 and 2021, and you were like, okay, there's nothing. So let me just do it. So Google in that case is like very smart way to capture the already educated people and selling them on what's on what you're doing basically, and the variety of products that you have on your website. Okay, so did you completely trust into we'll just have pop-up events and that's the way that I'm going to bring traffic to my Ecomm store, or was there anything else that you were doing?
Well, I will say, because it was a trending category, PR was actually really easy for us. So it didn't take a lot for us to get segments on TV, radio, other podcasts, editorials. It didn't take a lot for us to get coverage that way. I would say it's probably not plateaued, but it's kind of been a maintenance PR for the last 6 months. But certainly 2022 and all of 2023, it was a very trending subject matter. So if you looked it up now, you would just see a ton of articles, not just about our brand, but about all brands in general. I think all the marketplaces got coverage at least once or twice organically without them having to pay for a PR agency. So that helped. If you are moving into e-com, we definitely do something that's on trend. The benefit of the alcohol-free industry is it's not going to be off-trend. It's not going to be, we're not going to have a reverse of the category. It's only going to be, we're probably just going to see more of the big industry in alcohol, big alcohol, converting their products into alcohol-free. Creating non-alcoholic versions of their SKUs. And that will take market share because they have the revenue to be able to spend on $1 million ad campaigns all over the world. So that will happen, as capitalism always does. It takes over in many ways. But so you'll see some of the marketplaces start to fall away. And we are seeing that today. We are seeing stores that were alcohol-free already closing today because they've not been maybe able to compete in the category with maybe big grocery stores who are bringing in big alcohol-free categories now. They have the cash flow to be able to invest in that. So maybe they're closing for that reason. Or the shipping to customers is just too challenging and they don't want to do it. So there's lots of reasons that little businesses will close. But that happens in every industry. So it's not specific just to ours.
What I can see here happening is that number one, you've done your numbers, you understand now your environment, the whole shipping way, and everything that you had to calculate from day one, and you were able to survive this and learn from it. And then you have all of this charisma to do 100 events in like a year, to open up bottles everywhere and like educate people on this and like building this community because of it. Because probably if I go to a wine event and there's an expert that is sharing with me like a story about the wines for like an hour and a half, I'm not buying from anyone else after that. Like that's, if you are doing that, I'm like, that's a classic way of selling wine in general, but you're doing it for a non-alcoholic one and you turn it into an e-com success, which I thought that we'll be talking about Facebook a lot, but that's a huge lesson. Like, e-com people are so neglecting the offline market, and we're looking into it as that's like old school, like it doesn't bring any value to our businesses. But what you just did was like building a whole e-com brand through offline, which is like genius.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it really takes into account revenue streams, right? I will sell product online because there's people that cannot make these events in person. So that will always be bringing in money. Great. Awesome. Now there's the people that I want to convert in person because they actually don't like buying online. So I need there to be those events to meet those people. And in some cases, if you look at shipping, blah, 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 you look at the warehousing costs and the pick and pack fees, actually my margins are better in person. Yep. Mm-hmm. And then there's the after sale or sort of after pop-up connection. So I have little stores all around the city, all around the province, where I have product stocked, and my customers now know if they want an in-person sale without me present, they can go and find my product there. So there's another kind of revenue stream coming from them. And then I have the wholesale side of the business where I sell to hospitality. I sell to bars and restaurants and hotels and golf clubs and venues. And they kind of purchase at a lower rate, a distribution rate, but they are giving way more volumes. So now my customer that bought online, or maybe not, they bought in person, or maybe not from me, but they bought from a little store, now they can go to the restaurant and get the same product and drink. So it's a whole cycle and just creates more revenue streams for me.
That's amazing. And something that you just shared, and I think that's going to be really interesting for other entrepreneurs, e-com entrepreneurs that are listening or watching our podcast right now, because I know that that's a huge topic for all of us. You seem like you're like this huge face of your brand. And it's like if you're there, it's working. Like if you're at the event, you know you're gonna sell. Whatever happens, you might be in a bad mood, good mood, it doesn't matter. You know how to sell your wine in your way, and that's helping your business grow. However, we have situations where we just cannot be present. And you share me about it, about something like that. What did you learn from not being inside your business for a few months, from just not being able to work on it? What happened, first of all, to the business? And then what did you learn and change because of it?
I'm really glad that you brought this up. And what Victor's referring to is I had a really bad concussion last summer, so I had to stop working for a few months. And literally the medicine was to be bored and to not be on a screen, which for an e-com business is death. So I really struggled with it. My life is a lot online, but I did the work of getting offline, and I did heal quite quickly. And I'm still working on it, but it is much better than what it was. So what that taught me was the power of brand. And brand is not your logo. It's not the color or the font you chose. We all know this. It's 2024.
Yeah.
I'm not preaching to the converted, but we all know this. Brand is the feeling that people get when they experience your company. And that feeling lasts much longer than anything they can remember, even from the product. So what we did in the beginning was realize, and this is specific to our industry, there's a lot of language used around the non-alcoholic space that refers to things being dry, zero, etc., etc. All of these equate to nothingness, which is not actually what I want people to experience. I want them to experience the alcohol-free side of life as full, as more than, as a beautiful, sensual robustness of life, because you do end up feeling more when you're not numbing out, right? It's just logic. So how can I create that? Well, first, yes, the name Sansorium is a word derived from another word that it talks about the feeling and the pleasure and the sensuality of life. Okay, so that starts it. The color, I wanted people to experience beauty and richness and regalness and sort of like decadence, so we chose that. But then all the language I choose to use within the brand really evokes an emotion that there's more to be had, not less to be had from the experience. And then when you do experience the offline version of us, it's the same. You get that exact same experience online and offline. So I know that when I'm not there leading the charge, if it's my personality that I've infused, a part of it into this company, or if it's an idea, if it's an emotion, I've infused all of that across all touch points of Sansorium's customer experience. So it can go without me. And you can just go to Instagram for a few minutes and see that there is a personality behind the brand that is undeniable. And you can get a sense that it's fun, that it's creative, that it's beautiful, that there's a touch of care for one's well-being and mental health, but that it's also light and forgiving and easygoing. I'm just looking at it right now, just based on the last 9 squares on Instagram, which is, Instagram is a big catalyst of our business. And I did all of this, but I can tell there is a bit of a theme here. So I think that we've done a good job, not just investing in white background shots, although I've spent thousands of dollars on good quality photography. We're the only brand that I know of today. Okay, I can't say the only one. We're one of the only brands, marketplaces today, that invests in all their own white background photography so that it's consistent across the whole platform. Other people will just use what they can rip off of the internet. I want people to feel a consistency when they come to our brand, a trustworthiness. So if I'm gone, yes, maybe the product goes out of stock, but it's coming back. We write messages, we talk about that. We're not afraid to communicate the face behind the company. We're not afraid to say, hey, it's Fiona, the co-founder, or hey, it's Catherine, the co-founder. We're not afraid to be our company. Mm-hmm. And people have remained so loyal because of that.
I mean, what you just explained, and because I have really lots of friends in the wine industry, in the wine business. I've actually been to some wine lessons from professionals, and like the biggest word that they're always using for describing wine is consistency. And the good wine companies are extremely consistent with everything, and they're very detail oriented. So when you just share that, hey, I wanted to have consistency in my store, I wanted every single shot to be perfect so that it's similar to everything else. Like, that is exactly what a wine person would do, and not just this typical reseller of like whatever. So you're not just putting out stock there, you are creating a whole experience for the people that understand what wine is all about. And since you're doing it with alcohol-free product, like, you're recreating exactly what people want to get from wine. Not just getting something cheap and dirty to get you drunk, but something that you want to experience and understand. So this is basically probably the reason why you're like what you're doing is successful, because this is not something that everyone can replicate. Mm-hmm. I might be better at Facebook ads, or whoever might be better at conversion rate optimization or email marketing or organic growth and so on and so forth. But you can continue having this business 6 months without yourself, basically because you created this whole experience of what my brand is all about. And that, hey, if you really want to get trust and get a good bottle of alcohol-free wine, you don't look for another place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that too about your friends and what they strive for in their wine business, because it's a good reminder we're all doing the same thing. We're not different from each other. We may sell alcohol versus non-alcoholic, and we maybe have some different philosophies around that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're connecting people to a sense of emotion and sense of feeling.
I would say that the European ones would probably kill me right now when they are watching this episode, because traditionalists in Europe are like very harsh into like they're very traditionalists and into this. But this is extremely interesting. Basically, you touched based on shipping. You touched based on what branding is really all about. You touched based that, hey, you can live without Facebook. And that, hey, Google is also a really nice alternative when you have an educated audience, and that, hey, just because you're online, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing anything offline, and that it can be a real driver of people that are getting back to your store again and again, and they're probably the ones that are recommending your store and your bottles of wine to other people. So I can definitely imagine this happening.
Yeah, it's true. And it's easy for us to, people are going to have their opinions about different products. So you're going to have good and bad reviews all the time, because everybody has preference. Even alcohol has good and bad reviews all over the place. But at the end of the day, I know we have a good sort of a team of evangelists out there that are driving the message for us when we're not working as well, which is also, they're not sort of one and dones. They're consistently coming back in more ways than we even see.
Okay, and on every podcast, I have many more questions, by the way, for the business itself, with like how you're hiring, how you're firing, what were your best and worst hires in your career, and so on. But I wanted to ask you all of those questions. But I feel like in this podcast, and then like most of the podcasts we have, like the end of the episode is we're getting into something that you as an entrepreneur personally, what you're doing, what your rituals, habits, favorite books are, everything that you would recommend to some other entrepreneurs that are right now in your journey, so that you can share your experience and something that you can actually help them out with. And I feel like you were the perfect person for this topic, because you touch base on mental health and how important that is for you. When they look at and when they are listening to this episode, they can definitely, just from the way that you're speaking, they can understand that you definitely have a philosophy behind everything that you're doing. So, walk me through Fiona as a CEO of a company. What are you like? What is a day of Fiona's CEO work life?
Well, on top of being a CEO, I'm also a mother, and I'm a single mother. So I have a daughter who's in elementary school right now, and a big part of my day is helping her get up and out the door to school and picking her up after school and caring for her afterwards. So that gives me about 5 hours to make use of work life and a bit of personal life. And of course I have my family around me here in Vancouver, which is wonderful. So I get lots of support from my family and from my community. But I spend 50% of my time obviously working with her. And that forces me to narrow down on the really important things that I want to experience within my work life.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that you don't just work to live, you live and work as a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I try and balance out the day as much as possible with things that care for my well-being, because when I'm well, I can show up well. And when I feel well, I typically put out great work. So I've come up with a system that works for me.
Okay.
I've just launched this actually on my Instagram, if anyone's interested. I've come up with a daily 9. It's a bingo game essentially that lives on my fridge. That's why I'm looking over here, because I'm looking at it on my fridge. It's essentially a bingo card that I've made for my fridge, and it has magnets on it. And it has 9 things that I do every day to keep me in alignment with myself, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So everything from, and this is outside of the basics of eating and getting dressed, and taking a shower, although some days you just need the basics, and that's cool too. But these are things that help me get present, that help me stay physically well. So there's things that I drink in the morning that keep me well. There's meditation, there's prayer, there's quality time with myself, quality time with my daughter. There's getting to bed at a certain point of time, and that is a goal for me every day, because I could work till 4 a.m. if I let myself. So that is not a basic, that is a true goal every day.
I understand you completely here. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I had a physical store, because then I couldn't actually just be in that mall or something till the middle of the night if they wouldn't let me. But no, Ecomm means that you could work 24 hours a day, and that's very dangerous. So I put stops on my work day and my time. And I kind of just make sure every day I check in on that fridge. I roll those magnets around to check off those things that keep me well. And on really hard days, that is what I come back to. When you have so much going on in your day, in your schedule, nothing else matters but getting me through those 9 things get me through that day. And if I don't kind of focus on that, I can really lose myself to the work. And then I lose my wellness, like my physical well-being, then I lose my mental well-being, then it all kind of cascades from there. So I've grown a lot of boundaries around what I'm willing to do. I don't, and unfortunately things will fall away. I don't have time for lots of email. So I won't be able to get it. I might just miss your email, and you might have to flag it again. And that's a reality of my day. I won't be able to work on so many projects that are less of a priority, which is a shame because some of those things are the fun stuff. Like if you want to dig into a part of your business that you've never really looked at before, maybe it's some numbers here or a different kind of social platform. I don't have all the capacity to do that. And that's just the reality of my life and where I'm at right now. And it's okay. I don't have to strive to be on, the Forbes list right now. I don't have to be growing at 300% every year.
Yep.
125% is great. It's awesome. And I can take a vacation and I can rest on weekends and I can spend time with my daughter and my friends, because it's not about becoming a massive company. I know that I don't want to be a huge distribution company in Canada. I know I like my personal time more than that.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for sharing exactly this, because basically in our podcast, every single time when I'm speaking with my guests, it's typically the opposite. It's typically how to put 9 hours of work in 3 hours, and it's not, hey, how to make sure that I don't just do 9 hours of work. So it's not like how you master and you burn out and you're like becoming so effective and efficient that you burn out completely. It's absolutely great that you shared exactly this. Was your small bingo on your fridge something that you would call like a big breakthrough in your routine, or do you have anything else that you definitely want to share? And honestly, there are lots of girls entrepreneurs. They're living basically in an environment full of men that are so ambitious, toxically ambitious, that when they're feeling, hey, I'm not feeling well today, but everyone else is like striving for the next goal. How am I surviving? I think that you can be like so good for those people to listen to. Mm-hmm. So what was like a big breakthrough for you?
Yeah, here's the thing. Both myself and the other people you're talking about can learn from each other. It's not that my way is the only way or their way is the only way. I think that there's ways that we can practice each other's methods and grow from them. So I just want to preface that, what I'm about to say. The difference for women in the working world is we do have a different set of responsibilities in a different type of suit. Mm-hmm. Our hormone cycle works in 30 days. A man's hormone cycle works in 24 hours. I'm talking very binary here. Of course, there's a spectrum of that, but I will just use my own experience.
Yeah.
A 24-hour cycle, you can replenish your testosterone the next morning, and you can have the exact same day tomorrow that you did the day before. And so your efficiency almost builds day over day. Mine efficiency builds month over month. So I won't see my week's progress to see if I can repeat it again till the next month. Mm-hmm. That is a whole new phenomena for me. I used to get so down on my productivity and my self-esteem around my productivity, because one week I'd be fired up and ready to go and pumping out the work and so creative, and the next week I was like in bed, debilitating and so tired and so run down. And I thought, I am not cut out for this. I'm not good at this. Look at those other people who are able to do this every day. And in fact, the reality is I don't even like a schedule that looks like that every day. I don't want the same thing every day. I want different things week over week. So I've adjusted my life to be compassionate to my cycle, my body's cycle, and what success looks like month over month, not day over day. So the bingo game actually came up the beginning of this year in January, when I wanted to figure out a playful way to do the things that work for me, but not feel pressure that it was like a to-do list. Mm-hmm. And if you think about the concept of bingo, you don't hit all 25 every time.
Nope.
You hit a few of them every time. And you win some days and you don't the other. So that format wins. It works for me because some days I hit all 9 and some days I don't, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that I failed that day. And I've replicated the daily 9 to a yearly 25, where all my top goals are on a bingo card, also on the fridge, of things I want to do professionally and personally, relationally, financially. Even the quietest moments, like watch 12 sunsets, I have on a big 25 bingo card. And I've done this now with all my family and a number of my friends. We're going to try and hit as many as we can. But a traditional checklist looks like to get it all done means you have to cross everyone out in an order top to bottom. Bingo is a little more free. It's a little more spontaneous. It has a little more flexibility. You can hit all of them, you may not. It's okay. And I almost kind of gamified my daily and my yearly life a little bit. But for me, it was the creative breakthrough in how to be sane and how to enjoy all of this.
I think that this episode is turning into a lesson in human entrepreneurship. Yeah, that's
it
because
wouldn't be uncommon.
it's extremely uncommon, actually. So it's the reverse of everything that you're being taught when you're doing entrepreneurship. And you talked about it, the Forbes list and everything, the growth, and like I've been there, and I'm still there. I'm like one of those people that is doing exactly the opposite of what you're doing. But I absolutely
and that's great.
respect that.
I congratulate you, honestly, because it's admirable. It really is.
But I can absolutely see the value of this, and that more people should be rolling into entrepreneurship for your reasons and not for my reasons. And that this is going to bring like a really good balance into our world, because you can create sustainable businesses that are worth not just the margins, basically. They're not just where there's a product market fit right now, and if we push 10,000 doors more every single day, then we're gonna nail it, and so on. So this is the way that business was done 150 years ago, and that's something that we need to start building again, I think. On that side, I always ask my guests, what are your favorite books to recommend? Or maybe the strangest books that you would recommend. It will be interesting to hear from you.
Let me go into my Audible. So right now, I am listening to Brianna Wyeth's 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think.
Okay.
And so much of being an entrepreneur is mindset, you know? Because we're trying to, I think the actual breakdown is 20% is action and what you do every day, and 80% of it is your perspective and your emotional and your mental mindset around it. That's in the sort of the realm of manifestation. It's not about pushing things to happen and forcing things to happen. It's getting in the right lane and being available and being open to it happening. And that's a whole other topic. But so I would say that one was this book currently that I'm reading right now is very good. I was inspired to this. I'm not going to be your typical guest, okay? Your typical Ecomm guest.
Love it.
I was very inspired by Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey.
Okay.
And from a storytelling perspective, if you are trying to improve on how you write for brand or how you tell stories, because that's ultimately how you build your daily customer, is by telling more stories, right? Listen to Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. He has an exceptional way of delivering concepts in a beautiful way across a book. So read that one. Atomic Habits is a known one. I must say you could read the condensed version, but there's probably like 5 things that you want to take away from that book that'll help you dramatically in your life. So
what was it for you? What was it for you from that book?
So a big one that I've practiced is the stacking, habit stacking.
Yeah.
Another thing I really got quite confused around in my own life was procrastination and what that meant for me and why I procrastinated on a lot of things too.
Yeah.
And through that book, I untangled my relationship with doing and procrastination and rewarded myself so much more gracefully for the things that I did well and things that I was completing. Whereas before I would reward myself kind of out of guilt and shame. And it was a bit of a weird relationship to procrastination. So his reward system and his habit stacking really helped me. Let me see. I'm just going through my Audible account to see if there's anything else.
So
that
you're
I
a listener, you're not a
definitely
reader
recommend.
that much.
Yeah, I have a lot of books, but then I get them on Audible. A long time ago, I read a book called It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work.
Okay.
I read this in probably 2018 or 2019. It's by Jason Fried and David Heinemeier. It's a bit of a hard last name to pronounce there, but I loved It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work. So one of the fundamentals I took from that was the way that we run projects. So he gives lots of examples. It's a short book, so you can get through it nice and quick. I can't see how long it is here, but I remember I read it in a couple days. The way you look at projects with arbitrary due dates and arbitrary pressure, so much so that people are burning out way faster than ever before because we keep shortening the amount of time that we think we need to get something done by. And we create all these systems that implement stress, not success. I mean, you can say that you checked it off at the end of the day, that you finished it, but that person was miserable, or that person is now totally under the weather. Is that truly success at the end of the day? Not really. So, and the concept of thinking, of always saying when someone says, "How are you doing?" and you say busy, that's not really what we want. How do you want to live your whole life being busy? I don't think so. So this book, I think, was really cool for me. This was before COVID and everything. It was a really good time for me to read that. So I would recommend those 3 books.
That's great. Well, I actually love it. I just checked the books, and we'll definitely give them a look because you shared something that's a little bit different. And actually, last time when my last guests were sharing books that were non-traditional books, and I love that because I always share with my colleagues that, hey, you learn marketing not from reading marketing books. You learn entrepreneurship not from reading books on entrepreneurship. You will learn marketing and entrepreneurship when you start to understand people, and that's when that's happening through real life stories or through novels, through books that were written by geniuses and not from people that were experts at selling books. So when you read this, and if you get a book and you have more questions than answers, then that's a good book because it made you think about it. And all of the marketing books and all of the business books are like giving you advice and are giving you answers to questions that you never asked yourself. And for me, like, that's the beauty behind it, and that's what's making you think. And as an entrepreneur, there's nothing that's more important, in my opinion, than being able to think in different scenarios and to be outside the box and come up with solutions to whatever life hits you with. So that's why I loved your list.
Thank you
so much about it.
I love that too. I think some of the best advice I was given when you're trying to figure out something, if you're trying to figure out a solution to a problem, do, I don't know, 10 minutes of thinking and then do 20 minutes of something else. Go for a walk, like you said, maybe read a book on fantasy or novel or something that's different than what the problem is, and you will come back to it with a new perspective, a new emotion, a transmuted emotion, something else around it.
You're completely on point with this one. Wow. I mean, honestly, I expected to have a good episode with you, but I didn't expect to have this type of episode. It was like very chill, very laid back, and then at the end of the day, you shared so much value in it, and I hope that we can bring some balance to the entrepreneurs in the 7 and 8 figure industry that are watching and listening to this, because every day they're listening how much better they should be tomorrow, and how better their numbers should look like, and you showed a different perspective, and that's something that I respect a lot. So maybe my last question would be this: how do you see your business and you as a person in 10 years of time? What has changed in Fiona, and where's your business like?
That's a really great question. Well, like I said, I do think we all need to learn from each other. So those entrepreneurs that are doing super well in 7 or 8 figures, I mean, I'll still learn from them. So I probably will receive in 10 years, I'm hoping the company is sold. I hope that I've received countless hours of mentorship that then I can pass on to other people. I have already been given so much guidance and support from people that are in different places in their careers, and I sincerely hope that's what I'm able to do in the future as well. I've started now, but when you have more time to really dedicate to people, I really hope my life has a lot more time for other people in entrepreneurship and beyond. So I think in 10 years' time, let's envision this. Sansorium has sold. It's done really well. It has brought me financial abundance, but it's also brought me community abundance around the world. I would love to be able to travel and drop into different communities and have connections there because Sansorium brought me around the world. I think that would be so fulfilling. And I would love, if speaking personally, sobriety has changed my life and my relationships so deeply. And I'm extremely excited by what can come of that in the future. If this is what it's like now, I can only imagine it'll get better. So I'm really excited for that personally as well.
Well, maybe we'll have an episode in 10 years and
Yes.
you will be sharing again.
Victor.
And we'll see where we're at in 10 years.
That would be amazing.
Well, certainly. You have a new friend from Bulgaria. So if you ever come to Europe and travel around, it will be amazing. I'm one of those people that has stopped drinking alcohol years ago. And everyone is asking me all the time why, because we're in a community and I would say in a country or region that is really big on alcohol. It's like part of the tradition of like being a Bulgarian or being Balkan in our region. And I'm having like this dialogue with people like probably twice a week on why I won't get a drink. Yeah, what you're doing is amazing. And I would just say that I hope that you inspire more people to be like you and to have this freedom of starting a business that is based on community, that is based on, of course, all of the principles behind the business should be there. With like, there should be a gap, or there should be the product market fit, and like it should make sense and so on. But not to feel like you need to be the biggest capitalist in the world, and that it can be done in different methods and different ways. So Fiona, thank you so much for this episode, and we'll stay tuned and we'll be watching and witnessing your progress.
Thank you, Victor.
I'm sure that we can share some even more great lessons out of it.
Yes, maybe you'll run my Facebook ads for me finally.
If they finally allow you.
Exactly. Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I feel co-inspired talking with you. So thank you for for being a place that I've been able to share. And thank you for asking thoughtful questions. And it's been really great.
Thank you so much. And dear listeners and viewers of this podcast, if you like this episode, definitely give it a thumbs up on whatever platform you're right now watching and listening. Share it with your friends. And on our podcast, what we strive to do is to bring guests with lots of value. And I think that we definitely did that today. So stay tuned for our next episodes, and we'll see you there.